Righto, Joey, it is time for your first crack.
Yeah, well, we just heard from Justin Longmuir, and I'm taking a look at the four losing teams this weekend because a few years ago, Simon Goodwin made a statement in a press conference that has stuck with me, and it still holds up every final series. And it's your vulnerabilities as a team. Your weakness gets exposed in finals. And that's why we always preach the team's profile and what shape they're in and try and inform the viewers where a side is at. Because if you do have vulnerabilities, they do get exposed. And it was exactly the case in the four finals for the losers this weekend. Because if we start with Adelaide, I'd been speaking about it for the last 6 weeks leading into finals, that they had really been struggling to move the footy. It was something that probably hadn't, resonated with a lot of people until late in the season. And on the weekend, they couldn't get the ball from that defensive mid-zone, which Kingy's spoken about is so important, into their inside 50. They were bottom 6 coming into the season, and it was their worst performance of the year in this game. They only scored 5 times from the back half against Collingwood. We'll deep dive into the games a little bit later, but that was a vulnerability where they couldn't move the footy, and in a big game, a high-pressure game, they just didn't have the tools to be able to do it, and I'll take a deep dive in that one later. Then you think about the Brisbane Lions, and when you look at their profile, for a team that have a lot of positives, and in previous years it's been a strength, this year their efficiency inside 50 had been an issue. They ranked 12th in the competition coming into the finals, and against Geelong, they struggled to score. That number has been boosted because they got 3 down the field, free kicks that actually increased that. But when you think about their own entries, they really struggled. They only took 6 marks inside 50 in that game. So it caught up with them. We know they've got some injuries and some players down on form, but that was a big one. Then you look at the Giants today. And what about them? Well, they ranked 9th in the competition for points against, the lowest of any of the finals teams. And they conceded 107 points today, their 3rd worst return for the season. And they found out that, you've got to defend to win premierships, and we'll touch on that a bit later. But it has been something, they play in shootout games. When they kick over 100 points this year, they're 14 and zip. When they don't, they're 2 and 8. They love shootouts. It wasn't quite that for them today, and they got exposed. And then we just saw Fremantle, and there's been a lot of talk about their ability to score enough points. And while they were okay, they were 9th, going into the finals. That's the worst of all the finals teams. They had 59 entries but could only manage 79 points. They couldn't put the score on the board when they had their opportunities and when they needed to, and left themselves vulnerable. So once again, where you were vulnerable, you get found out, and that was the case this weekend.
Weaknesses exposed on the big stage. Righto, Kingy, what's your first crack?
Well, mine's pretty simple, and it's coaching matters. And it's not just game day. It's not just today. It's what you do in the weeks leading up, the months leading up, the planning, the foresight, the vision. And I think the template is Geelong, because they just don't allow the opposition to do as they please. And we're going to talk about Anderson and Rowell having 70 touches between them. But there was no way Geelong were going to allow Rayner and McCluggage to beat them. They say, OK, if you can beat us with Ashcroft, the pair of the Ashcrofts, and you can beat us with Bailey going crazy or a wild card performance from someone else, no worries. We'll live with that, and we can adjust in game. McCluggage has 1 kick at half-time because he's just absolutely clamped by Mullen. And O'Connor and Rayner had a great battle. Now, he got a couple of goals that were freebies from the umpiring department, and he had a few moments. But all in all, the mindset of this group is we're not going to get beaten by what we know going in. So I think it's brilliant coaching. The resting of Dangerfield through the year, Martin through the year, Stengel and Smith and these guys, so to make sure that they've got their best 23 to choose from come the first week of the finals. What an unbelievable asset that is. The roles of players has been shifted over the last month of footy. They've all played everywhere. So if you're planning to play against the Cats, you've got no idea where those magnets are going to fall. And in the end, they set it up for Holmes and Bailey Smith to outrun those midfielders I just spoke about before, because one, you haven't planned for that, or two, you can't cope with what the opposition are putting to you. So they take control in the coach's box. What was the plan for Dempsey? Were you ready with what he was going to do? Did you have the correct matchup early that didn't allow Geelong the luxuries to get off to a flyer? Was Matty Nix ready for Darcy Moore to take absolute control behind the footy? And when he started to do that, what did you do? Coaching matters. You've got to do something about that. If you had your time again, would you let him take 9 intercept marks? Would you let him have 13 intercepts for the day? The gambles on injured players coming back in, Hogan, Stringer, Kelly, was it too many? Was it just right? Should you have taken less? Should you have taken... Was it Weddle and Butler? Not all of them are busts. This is coaching. This is why you get the big dollars. So at selection, there are risks taken. The management of De Goey, to get him to be able to perform the way he is, you have to say huge tick. So all these things, all these decisions are nothing really to do with how you want to play. Because ultimately the system is embedded over 1, 2, 3, 4 years, depending on how long those coaches have been there and where they're at in the cycle. Does it have preliminary final integrity or not? isn't ready to stand up against the best, because Fremantle's tonight is not.
Yep.
Because they can't shift and cover those midfielders that we're talking about. They don't have someone that can go and lock away Bailey Humphrey, who's out of control. So, in the end, it's your system and it's your beliefs that we pick apart. Now, we do that from the cheap seats. Absolutely we do. But we do it off the level of what the best are doing. And the best right now is Chris Scott. So if you're not at that level, you're getting beaten. Okay? So that's the challenge for the competition. Not just for the individual coaches, for the full club. To get the right people in, to ensure that you're playing a finals system. Are GWS Giants really playing a finals football brand that's going to take them to the promised land? Or is it great to watch, can beat anyone any given day, can smack the awful teams? Does it really beat the best when it matters and when it counts? And maybe this is why we look at Damien Hardwick and say, he's doing it again. Because this model works. We're looking at Chris Scott all the time. We're looking at Chris Fagan all the time. So we look at these guys that do it for a reason. So what are the rest learning from these guys? And if you're not learning from them with some of the things, that's 20% of the stuff we've gone through there. There's so much more. If your system doesn't work in big games, it's no good.
Are they the team to beat now, the Cats?
Of course they are. Most people would have them top of the pops, but it's not just for one singular reason.
It's a season-long plan.
It's the season long. It's everything. All roads lead to preliminary final. And you can get beaten in a prelim, you can get beaten in a one-off game, no problem. But they give themselves every chance every year because they make the right decision season long.
Cats and Pies are booked. Home MCG preliminary finals. It's going to be a massive September. Righto, fellas, it's time for my first crack, and that is about the man who could unlock the Charlie Curnow trade. Here comes the sun, and that man is Jed Walter, because until now, the Blues have been a hard no on the Curnow trade. We've heard from Graham Wright, Rob Priestley, we've heard from Michael Voss. It's been a hard no. This is the man who could move the needle on a Charlie Curnow trade. And you won't hear him say this publicly the next week or so, but I understand that the Blues like this man as someone at 195 centimetres could be their powerhouse forward and their key cornerstone for the next decade. They know they've got Jagger Smith coming in, he's a pick 3. This is the other man who is a pick 3 and has shown a bit over his first 2 seasons, but he's been likened to Josh Kennedy, of course, the Carlton great, and there's some synergy in the story there. Remember, Josh Kennedy left Carlton after his second season, 2007, become a West Coast great. Potentially, they can land this man, and as I understand it, there is some interest in him. So Curnow is clear. He wants out, and he's got Geelong and Sydney as his preferred landing spots. I don't think you can rule out the Cats in this chase yet either. But if it has to be the Suns, I mean, if you're Damien Hardwick, you just spoke to him, can the Gold Coast Suns say no to Charlie Curnow? Because they've got Ben King and Charlie Curnow potentially in premiership mode next season. Is this something the Suns should be interested in?
I think yes. I think their window is the next 3 years. They can win a premiership, and I think that Charlie Curnow will help them do that. So I think for them, but that means they're going to have to give up, a young, prodigious talent. We don't know how good he's going to be. So does that mean if Carlton are open to that, is your indications then that Carlton are maybe changing their mindset in regards to where they're at as a team, and they might want to rebuild a little bit more than trying to top up and surround the stars they've got now? Is that where you think they are starting to think?
I think there is definitely more of a look to the future. Have you got Carlton winning the premiership next year?
Well,
Do you think they're a top 8 team? There's no doubt that they're looking at some of their younger talent, and it's a broader brush.
I've got the Suns nearly winning the premiership next year if they get Curnow.
Yep.
I mean, this is Damien Hardwick would do that tonight.
Yep.
If you get the paperwork to him right now, that's a lock and load and go as hard as you can for next season.
Do you like Walter, from what you've seen?
Not as much as Curnow.
Yep.
In the short or long term.
There's potential there. There's still no guarantee. He's going to be a very good player, but how good is he going to be? That's still a long way to go.
It's going to be a big trade period, no doubt.